This is Nathan, filling in for Comic Drake. Change is an inevitable part of comics, especially any ongoing series. But sometimes it can feel like those changes that we see happening exist only to undermine the characters that we love. This is how we get things like Electric Blue Superman or Spider-Man's Deal with the Devil. But sometimes we get an exception to these rules. Sometimes we get a change that opens new doors for a character, a change that can change the world and a character for the better. Sometimes what we get is something like Victor Stone, the Cyborg. For those of you new to comics, Victor Stone was a young athlete on his way to greatness when a horrific accident ripped his body to shreds. Vic's father would save his life by replacing Vic's lost parts with advanced machinery. Though Victor survived, it cost him everything his life amounted to. He was now nothing more than a cyborg. Created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez in 1980, Cyborg spent the better part of 30 years as a resentful staple of the post-80s Teen Titans. But in 2011, President and Chief Creative Officer of DC Comics, Geoff Johns, decided to make a major change in his New 52 reboot of the DC Universe. Cyborg was no longer a Teen Titan. He was now a founding member of the Justice League. This change is not merely an enormous canonical shift, but it also fundamentally changed the way this character exists and how he must be written. Let's start with the idea of the Big Seven, of which Cyborg is now inseparably a part of. The 7 founders of the Justice League act as the faces of DC Comics, sort of like Disney's princesses. Each member carries with them a sort of mascot value that can't be found in the likes of DC's Metamorpho or Disney's Esmeralda. This mascot weight has been big enough to lend the Martian Manhunter credit as a big-name DC hero, despite not being able to hold a reliable ongoing title for most of his publishing history. With Cyborg now holding that revered position and DC now pushing for reliable ongoing titles of their flagship characters, Cyborg is now in a position where he inevitably has to change. See, there's an inherent difference in how a comic writer has to approach team books versus solo titles. In a team book, characters are more capable of behaving in unappealing ways. Cyborg, for example, was able to be resentful of his superhero status and mope around, because his protagonist status was shared with the likes of Starfire and Beast Boy, who could counterbalance his angst. You see examples like this in the X-Men and the Fantastic Four all the time. It works because despite the presence of a mopey character, the overall team's motivation syncs up with the reader's desire for cool superhero adventures. But in a solo book, it's rare for characters like that to be compelling. It'd be like watching Die Hard, but with Donnie Darko in the lead. The dissonance between the reader's desire for a cool, ongoing superhero adventure and the protagonist's utter resentment for everything you think is fun is just too much. This mopey disconnect between reader and protagonist is the big reason books like Gritty Aquaman and Sad Sack Superman consistently underperform. For Cyborg to work as the lead of his own solo series, he would have to become someone people want to read about and learn to enjoy being a superhero. What I'm saying is, we need to make him like he was in the original Teen Titans animated series. It is just way more fun to see Cyborg shouting booyahs as he blasts cars off the highway. He needs to be beyond proud every time he pulls off some new trick with his machinery to outsmart the bad guy. Cyborg needs to capture that feeling of catharsis we felt pretending to be him as kids. Now, that's not to say that he can't feel the tragedy of his personal loss. The animated series showed how well Cyborg's fun-loving and tragic natures can mesh together into a three-dimensional character. But there also needs to be more than just character evolution to make Cyborg work. What we need is an evolution of his mythology. Cyborg's mythology, the lore and environments built around him, is ultimately what will make him feel like a member of the Big Seven, instead of just another guy punching crooks. The key to this mythology, I think, comes from the best change made to Cyborg's origin, that he is now a living mother box. For those that don't know, a mother box is a type of hyper-intelligent supercomputer used by the New Gods, who are a group of cosmic deities that include the likes of Orion, Big Barda, and Darkseid. The New Gods are an aspect of the DC mythology created by comic book legend Jack Kirby during his 70s run at DC, and are among my favorite fictional things ever conceived. Traditionally, the New Gods are linked to Superman, but the Big Blue Boy Scout has never had a real narrative anchor into their world other than Darkseid being a threat to mankind. However, by being a mother box, Cyborg is now a part of their mythology and it works so well. Cyborg is already the exact type of tragic monster hero that Kirby loved to explore so much, and it helps him fit into the tone of Kirby's New Gods very easily. Victor is the point where the unknowable power of the gods meets mankind. He is the Odysseus of a new age, lost not at sea, but at the border of inhumanity. Cyborg has been transformed into the missing puzzle piece of the new gods by becoming the classical hero they needed. It enables their history to be framed as the context to his adventures, while also giving the new gods a powerful anchor to the core DC world to remember the Big Seven that they absolutely lacked. It's an incredible change to a character filled with amazing possibilities. Imagine Cyborg meeting the Forever People and becoming an honorary member of this mini pantheon of divine teenage rebellion. Imagine Cyborg going on space western stories with Seraphan, the cowboy god of adventure. Imagine how Cyborg could bond with the Black Racer, another black handicapped American, whisked into a position of cosmic significance. There is so much potential for new and unique stories that Cyborg can be in thanks to being tied to the New Gods mythology. And it is infinitely more interesting than another 100 stories of him being sad and trying to recapture his humanity. I love Cyborg, and what I see before us is an incredible narrative opportunity to take the changes that DC has implemented and use them to make a better world and a better character. And I think if DC takes the plunge and uses these the way that we've talked about, we'll finally get the Cyborg we used to want to be when we were kids.
Hey, if you like this video, then please consider subscribing or even watching another one. Nathan was on the channel once before to talk about some underrated Wonder Woman villains, and he couldn't get this section of the video right, so I had to come in and do his lines for him. Bye.
Bye!